girl who was shot and injured in a gun attack in the French Alps, which left 3 of her relatives dead, has been brought out of a coma. Zainab Al-Hilli from Surrey is still under sedation and won't be able to be questioned for several more days. Her 4-year-old sister Zina, who also survived the shooting, has returned to the UK. Mark Williams-Thomas is a former detective and now works as a criminologist. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
We still are very much in the dark about what might have happened here, the motive of these killings, who was behind them. What are you reading into what you know of the investigation so far?
Well, absolutely. In fact, I've been out there, I've seen the scene, and I've spoken to the prosecutor who's obviously leading the case. And it's perplexing to them as much as it is to the general public about what's taken place. There are a number of theories. There's some theories that can be ruled out, and there are other ones, of course, that have a stronger element to them. What is key now is really as quickly as possible to try and build up a picture of their timeline from the time they arrived in France to them being in an idyllic, isolated country lane as it heads up to the mountain, which really you wouldn't just happen upon. The chances are you're either going there specifically, or there's a possibility you could be going on a just exploring tour, but I think you would have turned back prior to ending up where they did.
Yeah, so what else did you glean from seeing the crime scene yourself?
Well, if it was an organised attack, and certainly someone who was very capable, then I think they would have planned it in a very different way. What they have done is left themselves in a position where they potentially could be identified, namely by 3 people. The RAF cyclist who turned up on the scene and actually saved probably the life of a 7-year-old in the way that he reacted and put her into the recovery position and provided emergency care to her. We of course have the 7-year-old who is now out of a coma. That coma was medically induced because of the injuries to her head. There will obviously be taken great care now to try and establish from her what she saw. And of course the 4-year-old, well, the 4-year-old has already said that she didn't see anything, she heard a lot of noise, but wasn't able to give anything crucial. So to me, the 2 key witnesses now are the cyclist. What information can he give about the 4x4 vehicle and the motorcycle that came down the hill at speed past him? But really the key witness is this 7-year-old. What did the 7-year-old see and hear while she was there? And more importantly, what was the reason that they were there? She'll be able to give that. She'll be able to say why we went to this location. So that is really, really crucial.
But it will be a very, very delicate process talking to her, the unimaginable trauma that she has been through, and in fact, in some cases, in childhood traumas and in adult traumas as well, the information is not always there in her head to hand, and memory may not be there.
No, we don't know the injury that she suffered, how serious that was, but what we sometimes don't give enough credit to the resilience of children. Indeed, at times, children are far more resilient than adults, and quite simply because they don't put the complexities and think of the ramifications that adults do about the way they talk. And that's why sometimes, if you've got a young child who's talking, you can obtain an incredible amount of information. That's where great care needs to be taken now to get the right information from them. And we've worked very hard in the UK of gaining information from young children.
That's interesting. And what about the way the investigation is being carried out by the French police? No doubt they know more than they're telling us. But how does that work with their British counterparts? If, for example, British police felt that there was a line of investigation that really needed pursuing, that wasn't being looked at as well as they thought it should be, do they in any sense go off and start their own investigation, or do they entirely cede control to the French?
No, it's entirely a French-led investigation. The French will be asking the police to undertake certain lines of inquiries, and they will start to do that. There will be a very close coordination as far as the Surrey police, actually my former force, where they will be saying to them, right, do you want us to do this? Do you want us to do these lines of inquiries? The French have only got 40 police officers working on it, which is a very small number given the size of this crime and the violence of this crime. And don't forget, it spreads to a number of different crime scenes. Not only have you got the crime scene where the car was obviously parked, but you also have the tent, you have the crime scene in where the older lady lives.
And Mark, on that, hi, it's Nicky here.
Nicky.
I was thinking, there was reporters, I was watching television the other day, I can't remember if it was Sky or the news channel, but there was he was walking around in the broken glass of the car, and so, you know, it spread all over here. This is, you can see the shattered glass from the car. Look, there was blood-stained leaves. And I thought that was a bit curious, that he was, I thought all that would be evidence.
Well, it is evidence, and it's still there. When I went there, you know, there's glass on the floor. You can actually see, there's one photograph from above where you can see, you know, a patch on the floor, and that is in fact where there is a considerable amount of blood. And the blood is really important because you never know, there may be blood that has come from the offenders, not just from the victims. And particularly in relation to the 7-year-old, because the 7-year-old took a shoulder shot. We don't know whether that's a forward shot or a rear shot. And of course, if it was a rear shot, it would explain potentially the 7-year-old running away and then hiding and then coming back. But I think what's key to this is try to establish, is this somebody who happened upon, or they happened upon a deal or some crime taking place where they followed there, or was it an organised hit? And it's very easy to use this term, a professional hit. You can go and pay someone a couple of £100 to go and kill somebody. That's very different to a professional hit that's organised. And why I have doubt over the organisation of this hit is that if you wanted to get away from the crime scene, I only spent there, you know, 24 hours, and my exit route would not have been back down the hill. If you go round the corner and up the hill, you are out of that area without seeing anybody on a 20-mile track, which is quite suitable for a vehicle to get down, and you're away and no one will see you. But what they did is they came back down the hill, passing witnesses, because not only did they pass the RAF pedal cyclist, there were other people at the bottom of the hill, and indeed I spoke to a lady who owns the house right at the bottom, and she said, you know, on that day there was quite a lot of people around.
Well, it's really interesting, Mark. Thank you very much, Mark Williams-Thomas, former detective, now working as a criminologist who's been to see the crime scene.